Hey everyone, Kestrel here. Today I'm going to show you how to put together your very own sailboat kit, the finished product you see right here. This is what we're putting together today. Depending on when you buy your kit relative to when this video was created, which is in November of 2024, your kit may have slightly different fabrics if I've had to do a reprint or a recut after the initial run has been purchased. So your kit might look ever so slightly different, but it is still the same project. Let's start by talking about what supplies you're going to need. The first thing you'll need is the kit. This will be all of the laser cut fabric as well as the printed material, and we will go over all of that in just a moment. You are also going to need a pair of small fabric scissors, some tweezers, an iron. No steam though, you don't want any water in this iron, and some tape and a pair of paper scissors. Last but not least, some Teflon. This is a non-stick Teflon sheet, a non-stick pressing sheet, and as you can see, it is translucent so we can see through it. That's very critical for this project. If you need to have a pressing sheet that you can see through. So once you have all of those supplies collected, you're ready to begin. Let's talk about what you're going to get in your kit. This package has all of the pre-cut, the laser cut fabrics that you will need to make this project. So just set that aside for a moment. The printed materials, you will have a left and a right side of the sailboat template. We will be putting those together in just a moment. We'll be attaching them into a single sheet that we will use as reference to iron the fusible together. So both of these will be in your kit. You will also have two number match sheets, number match sheet 1 and 2. These are referenced so you know which piece is numbered according to the template. So we will be cross-referencing these documents as we go throughout today's process. Set these number match sheets aside. And then last but not least, you get a full color template. This full color template is for reference. It is too small to be used. Like the finished product, this kit is designed to make a 15 by 15 inch design. This is printed on a 12-inch wide sheet of paper. So this is not meant to be used as reference when ironing the pieces together. This is so you know which colors coordinate to which pieces. So this is a fully numbered template, and it has labels for the names of the fabrics up at the top. So this is, again, a cross-reference to make sure you're able to easily tell which pieces of fabric go with which area of the quilt, with which number, and which color. Most of this can get set aside at the moment. We need to start by putting together the paper template. So we're gonna set this part of the kit to the side. We're gonna be working with these two sheets for right now. The first thing I want you to do is take your paper scissors and cut any sort of line you want. It does not have to be perfectly straight. It can have a little bit of a wiggle to it if you'd like. It's up to you. But you want to cut a line from the top of the paper to the bottom of the paper, staying in between the two sets of tick marks. So something like this. Okay, we can discard this section. And now I'm going to actually turn this so that I can see it a little better from my vantage point. You don't have to do this part sideways. This is just so that I can see it a little bit better in my camera setup here at home. But we want to line up, I can ever so faintly see the tick that has the A on it. I'm gonna line up this A with the one on the bottom, or the one underneath, and then same thing over here. I want to line up that tick mark, and all of the lines in the center will line up as well. Now I'm going to take my tape and put a little section at the bottom, a little section at the top, and now I'm going to flip the whole thing over and run one long line of tape over the back. I have found that the tape doesn't always hold up as well to heat since we're going to be ironing this project. The tape doesn't always hold up as well when exposed to more direct heat, even under the Teflon ironing mat. So it's safer just to do it this way and put that big long piece on the back. But now this is our template. So this is the guide that we are going to be using as reference to iron together all of the fabric. Let me put these away, the tape and my paper scissors. We are done with both of these, so they can get put away, and we will move on to fabric in just a second. Okay, we need to put down our non-stick pressing sheet. So if you have some Teflon, now's the time to get it out. I'm just going to lay it over my template. Once your Teflon or your non-stick pressing sheet is on top of your template, it's time to get out the kit. The way that my kits are designed is to follow the numbers. There are 35 pieces of fabric in this kit. We're going to start with number 1, and then we'll go to number 2, number 3, number 4, etc., all the way up until we get to the very end. Let me dump out all of these fabrics so that you can see what we're working with. There is one very small piece in this kit, so be careful you don't lose it, and that is this piece. It kind of fell out the side. This is the little dude that's in our sailboat. So we're just gonna set him to the side. He's piece number 5, I think. Yeah, piece number 5. So we will be using him very shortly, but for the time being, I'm just gonna set him off to the side and keep track of his location. This laser cut quilts insert that's the company that I use to make these kits. And it has instructions on how to use a fusible backed fabric. If you've never used a fusible backed fabric before, instructions 1, 2, and 3 go over what to do. But in general, you're gonna peel off the paper backing, and then you can iron that piece of fabric fusible side down on the non-stick pressing sheet. So that's what we're gonna be doing today. You can discard this sheet of paper. Let's look at the other fabrics that we've got here. So I'm real quickly just going to kind of spread all of these out so that you can see what we've got. There are some bigger pieces than others. All in all, this kit has 16. This kit has 16 different fabrics, and all of them are right here. Now, some of these fabrics are going to look a bit different than the printed template. And that's because this design, this printed design, was designed before I chose the fabrics. And so it's a guideline, but the colors are not as bright as the kit that I'm using here in person. That may change slightly depending on what your kit looks like. As I said before, depending on how far into the future after this video was recorded you are making this project, the fabrics may have changed slightly just because they're not available forever, and I would most likely have had to pick new ones. But the same principle is going to apply. So that little person, he is this fabric in the design. He is that color, or his fabric is that color, and that color only appears on number 5, his body. We also have a white, a light yellow, and a yellow. Those 3 are here. So we've got one, or actually that's the middle. It's like this. Let me put that person back to the side to keep track of him. So our cloud fabrics, white, or it's actually a little bit of an off-white. It's not pure white. And then a light yellow and a darker yellow. That's cloud 1, 2, and 3. So as we go through this process, that's how you're going to need to cross-reference which colors we're working with if you're following along at home. Okay, let's set these to the side. I'm going to set this back to the side. And let me take that back out. We're looking for piece number 1, which is this boom that's connected to the mast. So we're looking for 1, and then looking ahead a little bit, we're going to go with 2, 3, and 4. So our very first step for this whole process is to build the mast and the boom on the sailboat. So we're looking for the ship fabrics. And this is ship fabric number 1, 2, and 3, which is our highlight, midtone, and shadow. And we're going to be cutting 4 pieces of fabric, 4 pieces from those 3 different fabrics. Let's find them in our project here. So here's the darkest brown. That's going to be the shadow fabric. Here's the midtone brown, and here is our highlight brown. Those are the pieces that we're going to be using. Okay, we're working with these 3. So we know we need pieces 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to start just going in order, and I know from looking at the colored version that piece number 1 is out of the darkest brown fabric. Now here is where I reference my number match sheets. So I can look, okay, I know this fabric is ship number 3. Ship number 3, it's the dark brown. So I come to my number match sheets, and here is the second number match sheet. So we have number match sheet number 1, number match sheet number 2. We're on the second sheet. I find ship number 3, so ship fabric 3, and piece number 1 is the smaller of the 2 verticals. It's this one right here. So that's the one that I'm going to cut out. It is mostly cut out, but when you're looking at these in person, you'll see that there are little places that were left uncut to hold the piece in with the rest of the, it's not, I wouldn't even call it perforated because there are only 3 little tabs holding this piece in place. But this is why you need your scissors. So that cross-reference finished. I now know which piece I need to cut out, so I'm going to use my scissors just to snip 1, 2, and 3. Once it's cut, it'll fall down. Set that to the side. Make sure my iron is hot. Now I'm going to flip it over to the back, and the trick with peeling the paper off of these pieces is you kind of give it a little bit of a roll. See how I did that? I gave it a little bit of a roll and the paper popped off on its own. Then I can just peel off the paper. You don't need that paper backing, so go ahead and discard, and you're left with your piece of fabric. Now you want to make sure fusible side goes down, and I'm going to line it up in place according to the lines of the template. And then I will iron it in place, just like that. So that's piece number 1. From here on out, I'm not going to demonstrate the cross-referencing between the colored template and the number match sheet. You can do that on your own if you feel the need to. I'm just going to tell you what the piece is and in what fabric to find it. So for piece number 2, we're back to looking at this dark brown, and it is the long vertical going up the outside edge of the piece. Okay, there's that one. Paper off. Now this one, it is ever so slightly tapered. The bottom is ever so slightly fatter than the top part. So we want that fat part of the mast to be down. It is going to overlap the ship. You can see there's a big rounded end on both sides of this piece. We want that big rounded end at the bottom to go into the ship. And that way the body of the ship, once we build it in just a moment, will be able to stick to the mast. And then the mast is going to go behind the sail and up to the top, where I'm going to very carefully hold it and iron it in place. Excellent. Piece number 3 is the mid-tone of the sail. So we're looking at this piece of fabric, but specifically this long skinny one going up the side. There we go. Set that to the side for now. Once again, we're going to peel that paper off. And now the top, or the skinnier side of this piece, corresponds with the top of the mast. So I'm going to grab my tweezers and use that to line up the top of the mast, just so I can better see what I'm doing and I don't run the risk of burning myself. And now I'm going to line up the bottom section of this piece with the left edge of the darker mast. That way it looks like one continuous piece of wood going all the way to the top. We're going to give that a second to cool. And in the meantime, we're going to pull out our highlight wood. This is ship number 1, the ship fabric number 1. We're looking for this skinny piece, not the spiky one, the other one that's cut out of this. It's only held in place by 2 tabs because it's a bit small. tweezers, and once again, the squared off top corresponds to the top of the mast, and it's going to perfectly line up with the number 2 fabric, the mid-tone that we already have in place. Just like that. Get that nice and hot. Okay. Now we're ready for piece number 5, which is our little dude here. So let's pop the fabric off of him, or I'm sorry, pop the paper off the back. Hold him in place. He is also going to go below the edge of the ship. So let's iron him in place. Perfect. Now we're ready to move on to piece number 6, which is the ship. So we're going to do 6, 7, and 8, and then finally 9, which is a little bit of a highlight on the prow. So we're still building the ship. That means we're still going to be working with these 3 brown fabrics. Piece number 6 is this last piece in the dark brown. So let's go ahead and cut that. And we are now done with this swatch, so you can set it aside or toss it. Pop the paper off the back. Now this lines up with the visible area. Part of this ship is not going to be visible because it's below the ocean. So we're going to just line up the part that we can see. It's going to go over our person and over the mast. Iron in place. Just like that. Now is for the 2 mid-tone pieces. So we're going to be working with these 2 on the medium brown section. Number 7 is actually the larger piece. It's the one closer to the corner. So let's cut that one first. Now this one, we can't see its alignment at all because there's already a piece of fabric in place. So what we're going to do is line up the top to the edge of the ship and make sure that the flat cut edge, that's the prow of the boat, is almost centered with the mast. And then we iron it in place. So top edge matches the top edge of the darker piece of brown that's underneath it. This center line is centered to the mast. Now we're looking for piece number 8, which is the last piece in this middle brown. We are done with this swatch of fabric, so toss or discard as you see fit. Now this one goes like this, and its cut edge, its flat edge, is going to line up with the right side of the boat. Hold it in place, iron, just like that. The last part of the ship we have to do is the little highlight that's on the prow. So that is the last piece in our lightest brown fabric. Also done with this one. This long flat edge is going to line up with the long flat edge of the middle tone brown. And we're going to iron it in place just like that. Okay, the hull of our ship as well as the mast and the boom are finished. Time to do some sails. We just did piece number 9, so we're moving on to piece 10, which is in the light yellow sail. So we're going to be looking at this fabric for piece number 10 and this fabric for piece 11, and finally this fabric for piece 12. We've got 10, 11, and 12. So let me get those cut out real quick. All right, starting with piece number 10. We are going to line it up to its edges right there and iron in place. Okay, piece 11 is this light yellow. This one's going to go all the way to the point at the top. So that's actually where I'm going to start. I want to make sure it overlaps the mast just a tad. And then I can follow my lines to the left and the right. I know that the bottom point has to meet the larger yellow piece. So we're looking at something like that. Awesome. And last but not least, piece number 12. This is our white. And it is also going to perfectly line up with the top, so that's where I'm going to start. And I know the bottom edge, this outer left side, perfectly matches the cut lines from the other two pieces. So we're just going to do that. Okay, that sail is done. Now we're looking to do the orange sail. The orange sail is 4 pieces. 2 of them are from our dark orange, this color. And then our other 2 sections, 14, this is 14, this is 15, 13 and 16 are out of this dark orange. But these 2 are already cut out because that's the only place this fabric appears in the whole picture. So no snipping required for these 2. Let's snip both of these orange pieces because we're going to need them both right now. Done with this orange, so you can toss it. Piece number 13 is this little triangle, and it's actually the cast shadow under our yellow where it falls on the other sail. So let's peel the paper off. We are going to have to carefully lift up this corner of the yellow and slide piece number 13 in place underneath. So I followed the template, lined up those bottom corners, and now I can iron in place. Next up is number 14. So give that a moment to cool down. Once it's cool, we're going to peel back up. Oh, we got to take the paper off. I want to line up this piece along that inner curve line, but I'm not going to iron the top yet because we're just going to peel this right back up in a moment. So I'm just making sure that the template lines are in place, and then I'm going to iron it underneath the other sail and give it a chance to cool, and then we're lifting it right back up. Next, we're putting this one in place. This is piece 15. So I'm going to go ahead and preemptively get that paper off of the back. All right. Now its inner edge shares the same inner edge as this yellow piece, which is why we didn't iron the yellow piece down all the way, because we were just going to lift it up right here. So let's go ahead and get this orange one in place. Now you can see this lower point is going to slightly overlap the sail, or I'm sorry, the mast. And that's by design. I'm going to hold this in place and then iron from this side, just so I'm not risking touching my hot iron to the exposed fusible right there for now. Let's move that back down. This bottom is in place, so let's get that. And then I want to line up these points slightly on top of our mast up here. Just like that. Now we can iron the whole thing. There we go. Okay, one more piece and our sailboat will be done. This one's up next. So let's peel that paper off, and you may have guessed, but it goes underneath that orange piece we just put down. So as soon as that's cool, we're going to lift up, slide under, just like that. Oh, now I'm seeing that we have shifted a little bit. I just noticed this, so I'm going to reposition my boat and make sure that my sail overlaps the edge of this boom just a tad. I want it connected to that boom, but not by very much. And then I want to make sure this outer curve is nice and smooth, so I've got to poke that orange in there just far enough. And then last but not least, down here, I'm going to push that in a little bit, just again to make sure we have a nice smooth curve on the bottom. Let's hold that in place. Okay. There we go. That's our sailboat. Now it's time for the ocean down below. We are going to start with number 17, which is this big blue piece right here. The most important thing is to make sure the lower edge, the left and the right, are all lined up. If those three sides are lined up, the top will be lined up as well. And I'm just going to go ahead and iron this the whole way across to get that in place. All right. Now we are looking at our light purple. There are 3 pieces of fabric in this light purple. We're going to need all of them. So go ahead and cut them out. Oh, I will say that that was piece 17. 18, 19, and 20 are these pieces. 18 is the one that has the mustache looking shape on it. 19 and 20 are interchangeable. They're the same thickness. So you don't need to keep particular track of which is which. Those other 2 sections are the exact same. Once those are cut out, you can throw away this purple swatch. Here are our 3 sections. These lower 2 are, these 2 long skinny rectangles are exactly the same. Set them to the side for a moment. We want to put down this mustache piece. So paper off the back. And the mustache shape is pretty clear to see. So I'm going to line that up. And then the tops of the purple, the other flat section of purple should line up with the top of the blue. Get my tweezers. Like that. Now grab either of the other 2 remaining purple pieces. This will be piece 19, and it's going to go about halfway down. I like to think of it as halfway between whatever remaining blue is there. The halfway point is what I'm lining up the top of this purple piece to. So maybe even biased up a little bit. I kind of want this purple to be right across the middle of the remaining blue. The remaining visible blue, I mean. So I'm going to go just like that. And then this purple piece goes between these other 2, and we're going to bias it up a little bit. So there should be a larger section of visible blue here than there is here. Iron in place. Okay, things are shifting. So let me realign. All right, now we need the mustache, which is meant to be like the wake. It's the waves in the ocean, the white caps that are getting kicked up by the prow of the boat. And this mustache piece is in our white cloud number 1 fabric, and it's the mustache shaped piece. Paper off, be careful about those points. Tweezers. And this mustache shares the same shape as the purple. So it's very easy to line up. We're just matching that cut edge of the purple fabric. There we go. Okay, at this point, you need to let the project cool down as much as possible. It needs to be completely cool, and then we'll move on to the next step. Once the project is cool, we're going to lift the entire thing. The whole sailboat and ocean is coming off of this mat. And the reason I wanted you to make sure it cooled entirely is to give it the best chance of coming up smoothly without accidentally tearing something. If it's cool, that means the glue has solidified again. It's no longer melted and it will come off of your Teflon easy as possible. But I still want you to be very careful because some of these pieces are not held together by very much strength at all. Okay, this gets set to the side. Next, we're going to start with the sky. We're looking for piece 22, and piece 22 is the light pink. It's the lightest pink fabric in the sky. It also has paper on the back, so we've got to get that taken off. And we're going to line up. I'm going to start with this corner over here on the left just because that's the side my iron is on. And I can see this pointed edge of the pink come behind the sails. So we'll get that in place. And I can see the edge of the pink going across the horizon right there. So we'll line that up. Iron everything in place. Shift it back a smidge. There we go. Okay. Now we're looking for piece 23, which is in this darker section. Piece 23 actually goes behind piece 24 as well. So piece 23 is going to be this one. It has a little hole cut out of it. And then piece 24 is in the lighter yellow fabric. It's the smaller cloud shape, and it's going to overlap 24 overlaps 23 in its entirety. So let's go ahead and cut out both of those shapes. Time for 23. Now, the only piece of this template, or the only section of 23 that's visible on the template, is this little juncture right here. That little juncture is right here. And we know that the left edge, which is perfectly flat, has to meet up to the left edge of the design. So that's how we're able to tell right where it's supposed to go, even though we can only see a tiny little bit of its line on the template. Iron in place. And now 24, let's take the paper off of it. It is going to go on the bottom edge of 23. So it's perfectly sharing the lower edge of 23, and it matches up to that little divot, which means we can now see some of the pink sky through the clouds. Just like that. Now for something a little bit tricky. We're going to peel back half of the pink. So this side that we haven't ironed in a while is now totally cooled down. We're going to lift it up and fold it halfway back. That's because what we're going to do next are all of these clouds, and we can't see their lines on the template if the pink is in place on top of them. So let's do these clouds next. We're going to start with 25, which is our last piece in this yellow swatch. So cut out that last number 25, and then you can discard the remaining yellow. This one is going to go towards the top. It's going to line up just like that. Iron in place. Okay. 26 is in our light yellow, and 26 is going to be this really long one against the edge. While we're here, I'm also going to need 27, which is the remaining cloud shape. So I'm going to cut that one out as well right now. Don't discard this yet. We've got one piece left in it. Okay, 26 is this long skinny one. Paper off. And oh, I put the number in the wrong place. Okay, here's a mistake on the template. Let's see. It's correct on the color. Because all of these are printed, depending on how far in the future you are, you may not have this issue with the project you're working with, but in case you do, on this black and white template, the 26 is on top of piece 28. It is in the correct location on the colored template. I apologize for that mix-up, but this long skinny one going left to right is what we're getting ready to put in place right now. And it's going to cover up its own number even though the number is not in the right location. Again, my apologies. So it's going to go right like that, iron in place. Okay, and then this is going to go on top. This is piece 27. We can no longer see the number for it. It's right here. If you see on the colored template, it's right there. So piece 27 is going to be just about this entire area because just like the other side, it's going to underlap the last white piece that goes in the clouds. So we have a lot of line to follow and line up over here. Oop, I bumped that. Let me do this and get this corner. I was worried about burning myself. And I flinched. Okay. Let's do that. Now we can move on to 28, which is this white piece. Now this is going to line up to that entire lower edge, as well as quite a few of the fluffy ripples in the cloud. And of course the entire right edge goes up the side of the design, just like that. Last but not least, we're looking for 29, which is our last piece in this light yellow fabric. Go ahead and pop 29 out and then discard the remaining swatch. Paper off, be careful because it does have some very fine points. Okay, and now this one, the only critical part is that the points, the 2 points on the right, line up to the edge of the design. And other than that, you can kind of put it wherever you like in this lower part of the white cloud. So I'm going to put mine towards the bottom, which is where I have it designed in the template. You can reference the colored template if you want to see where I put it, but you have a little bit of wiggle room with this one. Just like that. Now we're going to let these clouds cool off, and then we're going to fold them up and fold the pink underneath. So let me give that just a moment. Once this is cooled down, lift up that lower edge. Be really careful with that long skinny piece. You don't want to rip off the tip. You just need to fold it up to about there and let the pink come back underneath. Now I am going to quickly iron that pink in place just so it doesn't move when I fold these clouds back down like that. And I want to make sure that this is nice and straight. So I'm just going to move that up a little bit like that. Iron, iron. Okay. Now we are going to let's do number 30 first, and then we'll bring the sailboat back over after. I don't want to transport the sailboat too much because I am conscious of how little overlap there is between the sails and the mast. So we're going to put one more sky fabric down first, and then we'll be able to move the sailboat over and iron in place and have a lot less risk of damaging it. So piece 30 is going to be this bright pink piece. It is sky number 2. I'll take the paper off of it first. And now these clouds and the pink, the light pink, all have to fold forward so that this can go in place underneath. Okay, let's get that corner in place. And you don't have to be super careful with the upper edge ironing it down because we're going to be lifting it up as well in just a moment once we get that sailboat put back. Okay, clouds are in place. Pink is in place. Let's give this whole section a good ironing to make sure it is nice and secure. Okay, now carefully bring your ocean and sailboat back over and gently lay them in place. Make sure the ocean is lined up first. I'm lining up the lower corners of the ocean. Oh, my project shifted a little bit. Let's bring that back. Realign. Good. I'm going to get this ocean in place. Don't iron the sail yet if you haven't lined it up. Okay, now I want to make sure this mast goes in the right spot and that these sails are fully extended. Just like that. And I can see where the top of the mast is supposed to be on the template. So I'm kind of lining that section up and then just smoothing down everything below. Now we're looking for piece 31, which is this kind of mulberry color. While that's cooling for a moment, I'll peel the paper off of this back. Okay, and now we have to carefully lift this sail up once it has finished cooling off. So again, be very, very careful with those tips of your sail. Just like that. Let's line this mulberry up in place. All right, and then we can iron this back down. And our sail is finally secure to the background. Okay. Last but not least, we've got number 32 to finish off the top of our sky. Peel up that mulberry, line up our purple. Iron everything back into place. Okay, now the last three pieces of fabric we have are all our little birds. They are the remaining pieces in our final swatch of fabric that we have not yet discarded, and that is the white. So take a moment and cut all of those out. Okay, we have three birds. Two of them look the same. They're copies of each other. The third one, which was in the middle on that fabric swatch, has a prominent hook to its wing. So I want you to start with number 33. Well, 33 and 35 they look the same. 34 is the one with the curved wing. So take one of the other two. We'll say this is number 33. Paper off the back. And you can kind of put these wherever you like in the sky, but I designed the picture to have number 33, his upper wing is breaking into the purple. So his body's in the mulberry, but his upper wing is going into the purple. I think that just helps add a little bit of dimension to the artwork that wouldn't otherwise be there. So that's where he is going to be on mine. But if you like him in a different spot, you kind of have that leeway with these 3 birds. Next up is number 34. This is the bird with the curved wing, and he is close to 33, but a little bit lower. So I'm going to put him right there. And finally, number 35. This guy's trailing a little bit behind. So I'm going to put him a little bit further back like that. All right. There is our sailboat project, a 15 by 15 inch fused applique fabric design. At this point, as soon as it's cool, lift it off of the Teflon sheet. You can iron it directly to batting and affix a backing on your quilt sandwich and quilt it. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this project as much as I did. Thank you again, and I hope you have a great day.